So I want you to imagine setting up a video camera right in your living room, okay? And you record like 500 hours of yourself.
That is a staggering amount of footage.
Right. And you are broadcasting it. You're not, selling it online or anything. You are just sitting down week after week and meticulously studying that footage.
With really analyzing it.
Yeah, exactly. Critiquing your angles, checking your endurance, making all these tiny adjustments. I mean, it sounds exactly like a professional athlete reviewing game tape, right? Like right before the NFL draft.
Oh, totally. It's that exact same clinical mindset.
But the person doing this wasn't an athlete at all. She was preparing for a debut in, one of the most physically grueling and, quite frankly, highly stigmatized and controversial industries on the planet.
Yeah, it's a level of methodical preparation that completely defies the stereotypes of the mature entertainment sector. I mean, we are looking at a career that essentially took the conventional blueprint for professional success, set it completely on fire, and then replaced it with this radically unconventional empire.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today we are unpacking the incredibly complex career of Audrey Hollander, who was actually born Lindsay Jean Apston Brush.
Right, we've got a massive stack of sources for this one, retrospective interviews, sociological data, global digital metrics.
Yeah, the data on this is wild, and our mission today is really to figure out how someone goes from studying to be an elementary school teacher.
Which is such a pivot.
It is. How do you go from that to becoming a Hall of Fame inductee in the adult entertainment industry? And I just want to be really clear for everyone listening. We are looking at this entirely through the lens of business mechanics, personal agency, and cultural impact.
Exactly. This isn't about sensationalism. It's a completely neutral, objective look at the economics and the legacy involved in navigating that mature entertainment sector.
Right, because honestly, looking at her career, it's kind of like studying the biography of a polarizing tech founder. You don't have to use the product to find the business mechanics and the personal drive deeply fascinating.
That's a really great analogy, actually, because to understand the empire she ultimately built, you first have to look at the incredibly conventional foundation she started from.
Oh, yeah, we have to talk about Kentucky.
Right. So she was born in 1979 in Alexandria, Kentucky. And she grew up in a very rigid, strict family dynamic.
Like the kind of environment where your path is basically mapped out for you from day one.
Yeah.
You follow the rules, you get a respectable degree, you live a quiet life.
Exactly. And she was totally on track to do exactly that. She goes to Loyola University, Chicago, and she actually earns a degree in elementary education.
Which is just, she is fully prepared to stand in front of a chalkboard for the next 30 years.
She had the whole player.
Yeah.
But then we hit January 1st, the year 2000.
A fateful day.
Yeah, the turning point. She's in Miami Beach for a Fish concert, of all things.
Which is such a specific detail.
It really is. And she's at this sidewalk cafe, and she meets a man named Otto Bauer. And according to the sources, there's just this instant, explosive chemistry.
Like right then and there.
Right then and there. They talk. He proposes that very same night. And she immediately drops her entire life plan to move to New York City to be with him.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there because the psychology of that is just baffling to me.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. Because, you spend years paying tuition, you're studying pedagogy, you're preparing for this very secure life. You meet a guy at a cafe, get engaged on day one.
Yeah.
And you just abandon the entire teaching plan.
Right.
What drives that kind of absolute sudden pivot?
Well, it's really the hallmark of this all-in personality she has. For someone who was raised in a highly structured, very restrictive environment, the sudden introduction of absolute freedom, which this chance encounter represented, it can trigger a total paradigm shift.
So it's like a slingshot effect.
Precisely. And this impulsive, completely dedicated mindset becomes the defining characteristic of her entire career. She simply didn't do things halfway.
No middle gear at all.
None. And that absolute dedication really informed what happened next, because when she gets to New York, she discovers her new fiancé's actual profession.
Right, because he definitely wasn't working a corporate desk job.
Far from it. She learns that Bauer had actually been paying for his law school tuition at Tulane by working in personal companionship services.
Which is a very complex, underground kind of economy to navigate.
Oh, incredibly complex. But instead of being deterred, which, let's be honest, most people with a fresh teaching degree would probably run for the hills, she adopts this what's good for the goose is good for the gander mentality.
I love that phrase for this. She just leans right into it.
She really does. She decides to join him in the business, and they start providing shared services, often working with couples of individuals who are exploring their own identities.
And the sources note that she identifies as pansexual.
Right.
And she's talked about how she prioritizes interpersonal chemistry over strict labels.
Yes, exactly. And because of that, she essentially became this really comfortable, grounding anchor for their clients.
Which makes sense because she often acted as a buffer or like a grounding presence to help clients feel secure. But how does that psychological environment actually work in that space?
Well, in that specific tier of personal companionship, clients are often dealing with intense vulnerability, right? They're exploring aspects of themselves they usually keep hidden.
Sure, it's very high stakes emotionally.
It is. And Hollander's background in education, like her ability to manage a room, create a calm environment, read people, it actually translated seamlessly.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about it like that. Classroom management skills being used in companionship.
Exactly. She was managing the emotional safety of the room. And that is highly lucrative because trust is the absolute rarest commodity in that market.
That is fascinating. But eventually, that partnership evolves, right? She finds out Bauer actually has a background in filmed media for mature audiences.
You did, yeah.
And they make this decision to pivot from private companionship into the recorded industry together. And what strikes me is they do it for the most practical reasons imaginable.
Completely practical. They wanted the financial benefits and they wanted the travel opportunities that come with scalable media.
Which brings us right back to the game tape, those 500 hours of practice footage.
Yes, the incubation period.
I mean, they didn't just hop on a plane to LA and start auditioning. They approached this with ruthless clinical calculation. They're looking at lighting, angles, physical endurance, pacing.
And you don't record that much practice footage unless you are treating this as a serious, highly competitive business enterprise.
Not at all. It really highlights a deeply pragmatic, business-first approach to a highly stigmatized job.
And it fundamentally changes the narrative around agency in this space, too.
How so?
Well, historically, the cultural assumption is often that individuals, particularly women, are coerced or driven into this industry out of desperation. But Hollander's trajectory just shatters that assumption.
Right, she wasn't pushed into anything.
Not at all. She approached it as a calculated joint venture with her partner. They relied on their established trust, they studied the market, and they prepared to launch a coordinated brand.
If you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. It really helps us out.
So after this intense preparation, she makes her professional debut in 2003. And she started out in an Ed Powers production, which was a very strategic launchpad.
And that pragmatic preparation instantly translated into a work ethic that just completely overwhelmed the competition, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the output is staggering. Between 2003 and 2011, she starred in anywhere from 200 to over 400 productions, depending on how the sources categorize the scenes.
Up to 400 in 8 years. That is an unbelievable volume of work.
It's massive. But she didn't just blend into the background. She carved out a very specific, incredibly demanding niche for herself.
Right, because while other areas of the mature entertainment industry at the time were leaning heavily into like high-budget, narrative-driven content.
Yeah. Or glamorous aesthetics, yeah.
Yeah, she goes the exact opposite direction. She focuses almost entirely on unscripted, highly demanding physical performances.
She specialized in high-endurance, multi-partner sequences. She leaned into the sheer physical challenge of it all.
And her branding was razor sharp. She cultivated this girl on fire persona, right? Anchored by her red hair.
Exactly. It was a massive signal to the audience and to producers. It communicated this intense boundary-testing resilience.
But in a field that's so heavily criticized for objectifying its performers, how does someone like her actually maintain her autonomy?
Well, that is the crucial piece of the puzzle. She recognized early on that being the top talent just isn't enough if you don't own the infrastructure.
So she took control of the production side.
She did. She didn't just perform. She and Bauer began co-directing a series called Otto and Audrey, and then they launched their own production company, Mach 2 Entertainment, featuring the Supercore brand.
Wait, listening to you describe this, owning the IP, studying the analytics, bypassing gatekeepers, it sounds exactly like a tech founder bootstrapping a startup.
The mechanics are virtually identical. In the early 2000s, the industry was transitioning heavily to digital distribution. By owning her production company, she retained her intellectual property.
Which insulates her from the typical exploitation.
Precisely. Her autonomy came from controlling the means of production. She dictated the working conditions, the distribution deals, and the creative direction.
So, by making extreme endurance her specific brand, she commanded the terms of her scenes.
Right. She wasn't being pushed into demanding sequences by a director. She was the architect designing them by choice. And this unique positioning led to massive recognition. She won the industry's top honor, Female Performer of the Year, in 2006.
But treating the human body like an extreme sports vehicle, day in and day out, that has to have a breaking point.
You cannot sustain that level of physical punishment forever.
Right. And beyond the intense physical demands of those unscripted performances, there's the psychological weight of working constantly alongside your spouse.
The compartmentalization required to survive that dynamic is just immense. You're running a production company, performing in high-stress environments, and then trying to go home and just be a married couple.
The boundaries completely dissolve.
They do. And the constant overlap of personal and professional deeply strained her marriage. By 2011, Hollander and Bauer divorced.
Which really marks a massive pivot in her trajectory. Because following the divorce, she actually takes a deliberate hiatus.
She physically removes herself from the epicenter of the industry. She moves back to Kentucky to reconnect with her family and just regroup.
Which makes total sense after a decade of living in the absolute extreme.
But what's fascinating is that the digital legacy she built didn't just pause because she moved back home.
Not at all. In fact, her global footprint only seemed to grow.
This is where the Pantheon data comes in, right? Yes, and the data is incredibly revealing. Pantheon measures historical and cultural popularity across the internet, and her biography is translated into 27 different languages.
27 languages for a performer in a very specific subgenre. That is a massive reach.
It is. Her page views are highest in English, German, and Persian.
Persian. That's interesting.
Right. But there is also this massive recent growth in the Belarusian and Azerbaijani language editions.
Wait, Belarusian and Azerbaijani, that is incredibly specific. Why those regions?
Well, it points to something really profound about how digital media penetrates different cultures. In regions with highly regulated media environments or, strict censorship regarding Western boundary-pushing content, cultural consumption often happens underground.
Oh, like via VPNs and translated Wikipedia pages.
Exactly. Her intense, unscripted brand of media represents a radical departure from the sanctioned media in those countries. It becomes this fascinating form of digital cultural exchange.
So she isn't just a retired performer. She's this active global digital presence. She actually ranks as the 114th most popular American in her occupational peer group.
Which is a huge metric. And she did return selectively to the industry starting around 2012.
Right, but she adapted her career, transitioning into mature, seasoned performer productions.
Yes, and that long-term adaptability is what ultimately secured her induction into the Hall of Fame in 2024.
But we can't really talk about that legacy without looking at the broader societal pushback, can we?
No, we have to present the broader picture objectively, because the specific subgenre she helped popularize doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has tangible effects on the culture that consumes it.
And the sources we looked at reference robust empirical data and critical perspectives. And the findings are honestly sobering.
They are. The research shows a correlation between the consumption of this intense, boundary-pushing media and negative real-world outcomes.
Like diminished relationship satisfaction.
Yes, intimacy issues and heightened psychological distance among consumers.
So I have to push back a bit on the industry narrative here. It's great that Hollander felt empowered, and she clearly found immense success. But if the data shows that the actual content she created negatively impacts broader societal relationships, does her personal agency outweigh the cultural cost?
That is the core paradox of her legacy, and there is no easy answer.
A heavy question.
It is, because within the ecosystem of her industry, she is undeniably a trailblazing, autonomous businesswoman who maximized her agency.
She controlled everything.
Right. But to sociologists and cultural critics, her body of work exemplifies a media trend that commodifies human extremes, making her a deeply polarizing figure in the broader cultural landscape.
It is the ultimate dilemma of the creator versus the creation. So let's summarize all of this. Audrey Hollander's story is really a fascinating masterclass in unconventional career building.
It really is.
We started with a prospective elementary school teacher from Kentucky. And through this intense pragmatism, raw endurance, and sharp branding, she dominated a controversial field.
She utilized strategic business ownership to maintain her autonomy, building a brand that resonated globally. But she didn't do it without paying a profound personal price.
No, the physical tolls and the dissolution of her marriage were significant. It's a tale of empowerment on one side and complex societal critique on the other.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We live in an economy that increasingly rewards people for turning their private lives and their relationships into public content.
Oh, that is so true today.
Right. While Hollander did this in a highly controversial, mature industry 2 decades ago, just look at today's broader influencer culture.
The mechanics are exactly the same.
They are eerily similar. So as you navigate the digital world today, ask yourself, where is the line between monetizing your authentic self and commodifying your life to the point where the self disappears?
What a phenomenal question to end on. Thanks for taking the plunge with us today, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.